Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. I've been doing a lot of painting with a brush the last 3 days, and it's been a lot of quiet time. And I've been thinking. Earlier in the year, I mentioned how I've come to value peace over happiness. Happiness seems like a young person's game to me. Peace, as I've grown older, has become more valuable to me. And throughout the video library for this channel, you'll find here and there videos about philosophy. And in many places, and mixed into everything else, I've stated that this channel is really about a philosophy for living life as much as anything else, as much as how to raise cattle or care for chickens or work on an old tractor. All those things to me are to meet a kind of singular end, a way to live life, or the way that I live my life, and how we prioritize what's important and what's not. And peace has grown in my estimation of what is important. Peace is in short supply with all the chaos going on around us. And I asked Hillary this morning, I said, well, what should I talk about? Because I've got a little gap here while I'm getting things together for the tractor I'm working on. She said, you know, peace. Because it's in short supply, and because I think we get so absorbed in all the outrageous news that we keep hearing coming from all sides, that we need to have our own place of peace. Now, I'm not saying that I have some Zen idea of living a complete life in peace, but we all need to know how to find our own places of peace as a respite from that kind of storm. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what peace is. How do you distinguish it from happiness? And how do you find it? And what are some methods that we can use to bring some more peace into our lives? First of all, I never thought that I would be one to be talking about peace, because I'm not an inherently peaceful person. My whole life I've been about chasing after the next thing. Usually it was an accomplishment. Do this and then this and then this, and always reach for the next rung on the ladder, climb up, you know, better yourself. And I talked about happiness back then a lot. Happiness is it seems to me to be an active thing. You go out and you find happiness. You find the right place, the right person, the right thing, the right tool. You find happiness. You go searching for it. Peace is something that comes up from within. You don't have to go out and running around looking for it. And it doesn't come with the next accomplishment or acquisition. It comes from within you, and it doesn't cost anything, and it doesn't entail any running around. And that's the distinguishing factor, I think, between peace and happiness. Happiness is also something that's fairly fleeting. You can be happy with something 1 minute, and then down the road, you're on to the next thing that you think will make you happy. Peace is something that comes to you repeatedly, given you allow it to come. You don't go out and find it, you allow it to come. Take a minute and stop and think of the times that you feel peace. What are you doing when you feel that way? How does it sort of come upon you? Watching a sunset, maybe. Sitting at a rainy day, maybe reading a book, drinking coffee. They're usually quiet activities. So for me, I made a list. Improving how the farm works brings me peace at the completion of the job. So if like when we cleared out all the stuff this summer, and it made it easier for me to mow and keep things tidy, that sort of accomplishment brought me a lot of peace. There's simpler activities, things like painting with a brush. Boring, monotonous, but peaceful, with a sense of accomplishment and making something old new again. Finishing jobs I've put off and completing them. Woodworking brings me peace. Cross stitch brings me peace in a very quiet way, a very time-consuming quiet way. Drinking coffee and looking out the window at the birds and this beautiful place we live. They're quiet activities for the most part, reflective, and they share a couple things in common. The first is the ability, maybe you can't shut out the outside world completely, but the ability to distance yourself from it. And sometimes time is what removes you from it. In the case of painting, you spend an hour painting, and then the kind of stuff kind of fades in the background as you focus on your work. There's a sense of flow. There's actually a mental state called flow where your talents are matching your activity. When you get into that state, a sense of peace comes over you. You feel like you're doing a good job, you're working to your best ability, and you're accomplishing something, and you feel at peace. Now, on kind of the opposite end, if you're doing that activity and your mind is consumed with everything that's going on outside, some things that you can control and some things that you can't control in the larger world, it is really hard to feel that sense of peace. Other common qualities of these activities include that usually I'm doing them alone. So there's no one literally chattering in my ear about this or that. The radio is not on, it's silent. The phone is not on. The email, the computer, all that stuff is away. And you're alone with your thoughts. Other qualities, they're not hurried, these jobs. Although I always impose an artificial deadline on myself, they really are unhurried. They're without fixed deadline. And you're able to put the time in to do your best and be proud of what you're doing. And that's something that's, I think, really missing in society. When I thought back about when I had, the 9-to-5 working job, the thing that would have brought me peace, which I experienced very little of back then, would have been feeling that I had finally caught up at my job. In 20 years, I never felt like I caught up at my job. There was always a stack of things that had to be done, and it's part of being efficient at work now. You have to be fully loaded or overloaded to be the most efficient possible at what you do. But now, I feel like I can take the time to do things right on my own schedule, and that brings me a sense of peace. Now, it can bring you a sense of peace too, even if you're still in the working world. You just have to, hopefully, be able to set aside time to do whatever you're interested in to the best of your ability. And that brings peace. One of the best places to feel or to encourage peace, a feeling of peace, is to be out in nature. What is it about being out in nature that makes us feel peaceful? Part of it is that we're a part of nature. And so there's a feeling of belonging. Deep down, however much time we spend running around and interacting with our kind of artificial world, nature's there all around us and we're still a part of it. The other thing about being in nature that helps you open yourself up is the complexity that you notice the more that you're in it. If you just zoom by it and you say, there's some trees changing color, aren't they pretty? That's a whole lot different than sitting under that tree for 20 minutes or a half an hour and really starting to take in the details of the scene and the way that the tree is made and the shape of the leaves, and you just go on and on with detail. The more you look, the more you notice, the more the outside world fades away, and the more that feeling of peace rises up, within me at least. I don't know if this applies to all people, but for me it's one of the principal ways to get grounded and to feel peace. One of the wonderful things about peace is it's a passive activity. You don't go out searching for it. It doesn't require the acquisition of stuff. It just requires you to feel like you're in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. And once you figure out those three things and where they come together, you're there. You don't have to run around trying to find the perfect thing. And on that note, I think that peace is easier to achieve with a simpler life, without so many things to take care of and worry about all the time, you encourage less of that chatter coming into your head. And there's other kind of tertiary things about living below your means financially if you're able to, because that takes a huge piece of chatter out of your head. If you're living paycheck to paycheck and not putting any money away and have no cushion, it's hard to forget about that stress. That is real stress. Following on that idea of a simple life, I wonder if all the choice and abundance that's available to us today has led to a decrease in a feeling of peace. Growing up in my grandfather's day, he seemed to be a much more peaceful person than I am, or a lot of people I know. He was happy to sit out on the back porch for an afternoon looking at the big horse chestnut tree that grew behind our house with no particular task to accomplish. And I wonder if things moved more slowly because of scarcity. Is that the word? There wasn't as much stuff to keep us occupied. I don't know the answer. It just occurred to me. I think there are steps that you can do to help encourage a feeling of peace in your life. And I have a list. I'm going to have to get it out because I can't remember them all. If possible, as I said, if you're living below your financial means, that's a big contributor. And to be able to underschedule your time. Now, that's easy for me to say. I'm semi-retired. But if you can leave a piece of your day unscheduled by underscheduling your whole day, a couple hours, to give you just a piece of time to be able to bring that feeling on, I think it's recharging. In the same way that stress is debilitating and destroying, peace recharges. So to leave a part of your day to do that is hard. But I think it's almost necessary given the health problems that people experience related to stress and kind of overscheduling. You have to be able to identify things that are out of your control and somehow make your peace with those things. That's really hard given the news these days because we all worry about a lot of things that we can't control. Logically, you can tell yourself, I shouldn't worry about those things because I have zero control over them. But we do. Somehow figuring out a way around that, I think, is important. Or at least to be able to distance it from yourself for long enough so that it doesn't impact your mental well-being more than it should. The last thing is that you have to open yourself up to it. You have to open yourself up to feeling peace. We're all so tense now. I think we're all tense, worrying about all kinds of things. And in order to let this kind of peace in, you have to open yourself up to it, which means you have to be open to feelings and sometimes uncomfortable stuff to give yourself the space to experience that. I don't know how to put that in a better way. It's just kind of me trying to translate emotion, which sometimes for an old farmer like I am can be difficult. But I did my best in this video, and I hope it helps you out. What we need of in this world is more peace. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.